all, I want to welcome everybody to PitchMaster. The objective of this series is really to position you for success and align you with what it looks like to be fundable. Also, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, these strategies work in just connecting with your market in very unique ways. My name is Brian Sparks. I am head of strategic ventures at STAK Ventures. I'm also the CEO of Silicon Valley Venture. I have a podcast called Silicon Valley Impact. You all should be following that, by the way. But we'll have a lot of great people on the show, including all of these people have been on Silicon Valley Impact. So you could go check out their, or Itamar, you're going to be on there Tuesday. So
Right.
full house of
Excited about
Silicon. Love it. So I definitely want to let everybody introduce themselves, but James, you and I are co-hosting this, and then Itamar, I'll let you go. But James, give a little intro on who you are and what people have to look forward to.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is James G. I am with Startup Grind. So we are the biggest community of startups in the world. We have chapters and run events across 250 cities around the world, helping early stage founders. So ideation through to Series A. We have a big network of investors and partners. We run cool events. We have done over the last 15 years, 20,000 plus events across the world. We run a big conference in Redwood City every April, so would love to invite you and get you down to that and get you to connect with the audience that we have. I also run the Silicon Valley chapter, so I do 2 or 3 events every month, from pitch events to female founder events to dinners, you name it. I try and collate it all together. So here to help. I've seen 1,000 pitch decks, 1,000 pitches. I have my own tips and tricks that I've learned across my years as a failed founder as well. So happy to be here and do these sessions with Brian. There's a lot of people joining. A lot of people probably want some great help with where they are at their stages, and everyone's probably at a different stage. But we're here to give you some kind of strategic help on the way. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Itamar.
Yeah, first, just a shout out to Startup Grind and James. I mean, they've been doing an amazing job. I was a speaker at one of the events, I think it was last month or 2 months ago, and thousands of people showed up. It's such a great community of people in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and beyond, of like global entrepreneurs are all coming together to, you know, the hustle. My name is Itamar Novick. I run Recursive Ventures. We're seed stage VC. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself. I've done every stage in the startup from pre-seed to IPO and beyond. My last company is a company called Life 360, which is now publicly traded, the $8 billion market cap. But more importantly for the audience here, I've been investing. I started my career as an institutional VC. I've been investing for the last 16 years, and I've invested in over 180 startups, out of which 8 are decacorns or unicorns today. So I probably see 1,000 pitches a year, I want to say, maybe 2,000. It's hard to keep track of them all. There's so many, right? So many of you out there building amazing companies obviously want to see more. But I think where I can add value here to you guys is, like, I've seen a lot of pitches. I know how we should pitch VCs. And then my superpower is, after I find the companies and fund them at the pre-seed stage, I help my companies get funded by the best institutional Series A VCs in Silicon Valley. And I've helped over 50 of my companies raise over $500 million. So that's, I hope I can help some of you guys with your next funding round.
All right. Can't wait to geek out. But a lot of the partnerships that make all of this networking, this community possible, I love to spotlight them. I brought 2 of my closest friends in today as well. They're big partners with STAK as well as the Agentic. So Colin, I'm going to pass it to you to give a little intro on what you've built in the East Bay. It's amazing. But please welcome all these people who are joining the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. I'm Colin Baring. I'm the CEO of Baring Capital, as well as a founder at STAK Ventures. We effectively have put together what we refer to as a full stack real estate platform. And that's the full integration of live, work, play, and go. That's offices, apartments, amenities, retail, even a private fleet of Teslas for driving around. The idea is to effectively give everybody all the resources in the place to gather and build companies, grow, invest, attract capital, and effectively become tomorrow's unicorns. And to have one place that really has access to capital, access to talent, and access to expertise, that thing was missing across the entire Bay Area. And we put together our flagship property here at 1900 Broadway, where it's effectively two towers and 1 million square feet, and it's effectively a military base for startups. So come check us out if you haven't visited us, and if you have, then you already know what I'm talking about, and it's worth coming back. So happy to be here and happy to help.
Yeah, and I'm on the 39th floor, and if you can see San
There
Francisco
you go.
background, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
flexing here in the
400-foot
building.
views.
Yeah, and you're in the podcast studio that we provide.
Yeah,
So
I'm in a cell
started.
block. Yeah.
All right, thanks for being here, Colin. Hans, good to see you, buddy. You're doing some amazing things with startups, providing them their product build. But before we get into PitchMaster and why we're here, please give a little intro on who you are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, James, Colin. Awesome, great seeing you again. We'll say I've got a couple of the startups in our Launchpad program, which I'll describe, living over at STAK. Great place to hang out. And Itamar has probably some of the best content on LinkedIn associated to VCs, very much like that. So give him a follow if you don't have that. Real quick on myself, my name is Hans Sandu. I'm the CBO of a company called The Agentic. We are an AI agent infrastructure organization. Background on myself, I've been in early stage venture backed software on the operator side for about 13 or so years, and also partake as an LP with on the venture side. Very much from a thesis perspective is encompassing of what we do as a business. So we enable companies to create and develop private custom AI. We have a way to do that through our 14 domain specific LLM models, which we create, as well as our frameworks, which allow companies to essentially create digital workers. Outside of that, we run this program, which almost acts like a VC accelerator that doesn't take equity, which companies are qualifying for based off of what we call business or use case validity, which we go and build your product to a point in which you got commercial validation. And if you don't get to commercial validation, you don't owe any money at all. So we actually have over 70 companies that are in that program since starting it February of this past year. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, Hans. Really appreciate it. And again, I want to welcome everybody here. We're still allowing people to join. We had over 500 people registered for this, so I'm sure they'll be dropping in. The idea around this is I truly believe that the startup game is like a chess game, and we can learn on how all the pieces move, but ultimately strategy comes from multiple perspectives. And when you learn how to strategize from multiple perspectives, it makes you better at the game. So those who are good at chess, they are chess masters. Those who are good at pitching, go to market, connecting with their audience, I see them as pitch masters. And so the purpose of this, again, is to get high-level insights for those who have seen the best pitches. And so, James, I want to start with you, and then Itamar, I'm going to come to you. James, really quick, with Startup Grind, you see a ton of pitches year-round. What are some of the things, and we're going to start with the beginning, before we get into some frameworks, which we'll ultimately get into with this episode, but also future episodes. What are some things that you've seen work really well with those who move the needle with Startup Grind?
So it's a shame we've only got 20 minutes left because I could go on for a while here. But so I've seen a ton of founders. I've hosted a ton of events. The one thing that comes to mind, and for any Americans out there who watch Shark Tank or any Brits that watch Dragon's Den, the one thing that usually succeeds the most at the early stage is passion and the founder, right? So what I mean by that is, can you articulate your story and give off your passion about this project, right? Which is your livelihood. It's your 24/7 project that you should be working on. How you portray that, whether it's in a pitch, whether it's in a competition, whether it's with slides or not slides, being able to actually articulate your enthusiasm and passion into your startup is the number one point. And that might sound very obvious, but not everybody can do it, right? And it is a skill set to be able to speak confidently about what your expert subject is. So don't rush into necessarily just going into the technical side of what you might have and whether this is as a founder or a salesperson. I always like to refer to it as talking to your grandmother, right? Not all investors, even if they are, a deep tech AI investor, wants to talk about that at that level straight away. So being able to actually just break stuff down and build rapport with whoever you're talking to is the number one thing that comes across. Yes, everybody wants to speak to investors, and I get inundated with people who come to my event saying, "Hey James, can you introduce me to an investor here?" So I think we'll get into this a little bit more, but on the strategic side of that, do you actually just want to meet any investor, or is there a particular investor who's going to an event that you want to meet, or is there a particular investor that you want to meet because
James, do we get you on mute there? I'm not sure if anybody else got that.
James, you just got muted a little bit. There you go.
Yep.
Sorry, buddy.
Have at it. We just lost the last 5 seconds.
Okay, so let me just wrap up on this then. So yeah, if you're going to an event or you're going to meet and you want to meet an investor, it has to be relevant to what you're doing, right? So if you're in health tech and you're running a health tech startup and you want to meet an investor, it's not, you shouldn't be meeting just any investor. It should be, hey, I've done my research. These are the investors that I want on my cap table because I know they'll add value. And then it's not about, meeting someone and having, pitching to them straight away, because it turns off investors almost immediately. Investors get hounded on all the time in terms of founders just wanting to pitch and pitch and pitch. You just have to build rapport, and that comes with patience and knowing who to speak to at the right time. So I'm sure we'll come back to the strategy of how you do that later in the call, but that's just my 2 cents. So passion and confidence of how you actually articulate your idea.
Love it. I love it. And do your homework, right? I love it. Itamar, I'm going to pass the baton to you. What should founders be thinking as they get ready to start to speak to investors? Where do you pick up from here?
Yeah, super important topic. I have so many tips and tricks, but let me share a few that I think are really important for people to understand. So first of all, fundraising is a sales effort. You want to make sure you have a game plan. You want to come very well prepared with high quality collateral. What you say, what the narratives are, what is the deck, what is the story, what is the founding story, all those things matter. We as VCs, we want to connect to stories. We want to connect to people. I want to find my next company that I'm excited about with the founders that I'm excited about, but you have to be well prepared and have very high quality collateral. Build a CRM, like you do the sales process. Figure out who are my targets, who are the VCs I should be talking to, and why? Why are they the right investors for me? Do they invest in this space? Are they weighing in? Do they have like thought leadership in that space? Those are the people you want to target. And last, build a process around it so you can really put aside the time that you need to put aside to meet investors, to pitch investors, to get a deal done. So it's a sales effort. Come prepared. 1. 2 is be prepared for a 6 to sometimes 2 years slog of continuous fundraising, especially at the pre-seed and seed stage. It takes a while. It takes you time to dial in the message. It takes time to find the investors. It takes time to understand what it takes to fund this thing. Sometimes for European entrepreneurs, it's easy and they just off the bat, they get the money, they get going. Most people, that's not true. That's not the way it works. They hustle for 2 years until they get some serious money to start their company, and that is perfectly okay. Don't get distracted by TechCrunch articles saying, "Oh, Mira Murati raised $1 billion and $3 billion." That doesn't matter. Don't focus on that. Focus on you. Focus on your team. Focus on your process. Number 2, be prepared for the slog. 3, cold introductions and emails, especially drip campaigns, do not work. Don't try this at home, kids. It does not work. Go build a network of mentors, other CEOs of companies that you admire, people that you worked in the past, advisors, anybody who can help you who has VC.
Hey, how's it going? Eric?
VC relationships, and ask for warm introductions. Warm introductions is the way to go. You want to talk to me? Find somebody who knows you and knows me and would vouch for you. That is the best way to get it going. I'll take you seriously. I'll jump on a call quickly. And, I have this background of like, hey, you might be the right person to do this thing. Last thing is, there's more tips, but this is the last big tip I'll give you is pick the right investors. It's not about the firm. It is about the partner. Who is the individual GP who you should be talking with? And then finding who is the person that can give you the best warm intro to that person. Just figure out from your network. No cold calling. Don't go for loose connections. Find warm introductions that are strong connections to the specific partner, not the firm. You don't need to get funded by Sequoia. You need Alfred Lin, right? That's the first thing you should think about. The second thing is, why are they the right fit? Do they have an investment track record that adds up to this? Obviously, you don't want to have them in competitive companies and so on and so forth. Find the right investor, ping them at the right time, because if they invest in a Series A, you don't want to go pitching them a pre-seed round because they're never going to do it. Don't waste your time. Get ready and go pitch them in the Series A. So find the right investor at the right time with the right warm intro, and you're off to the races.
Love it, Itamar. That was good. And this is recorded, so those of you who want access to this, I will be providing that link after the event. But Colin, I got to come to you. You've with all the buildings and all the assets that you have under management, you have become really, really good at a pitch master when it comes to raising yourself. I mean, you have billions under asset. What are some high level tips that you've learned that has worked in raising all the capital that you've raised over the years?
Yeah, I mean, raising capital, when it comes to the asset class, it's a little bit different when you're talking about venture and you're talking about startups. And then you've got institutions that are looking at real estate and all those kind of things. All in all, we have experience raising capital for, nearly 3 billion in different assets. But on the startup side, I'll focus on that right now. I couldn't agree more with what Itamar and the whole team here is talking about, where it doesn't matter who you know, it matters who knows you. And if you're getting a direct introduction and somebody knows you and can vouch for you and the quality of character, the body of work that you have and your history behind you, and they recommend you to me, I am immediately going to flock toward good people. I'm going to flock toward opportunity. I'm going to rush toward things that will take me in the direction that I want to go. So, getting involved in the communities that you are active in, whether it's for startups and venture and tech, it could be that specific vertical, but get involved, get to be in those circles of people that are moving that industry. That's the fastest way to do any of this. As far as the pitch, I will absolutely say that I wish that the world wasn't shallow, but I'm going to back Itamar on exactly what he says about really high quality collateral. Spend a lot of time on making sure that the materials look good, that you are a category killer for your industry, and that if somebody only had one choice out of 5, 10, or 50 opportunities, they would see those decks on a table and they would pick that one up just because they want to start there. So it's a filtering mechanism. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't represent all the value of what you're doing, but it's a great start to just look good. So, the quality of collateral, the messaging, and the last thing I'll say is learn to filter exactly what you do very fast. Don't make it vague. And you'll see a lot of stuff, and especially even the content, Brian, that you've put out, where selling the feature, not the product. What do you do? And like, what is your offering? What problem are you solving? I'm going to save 5 hours for 1 billion people every day. That's 5 billion hours recovered daily. Like that is what you're doing. It doesn't matter that it happened to be some algorithm and some database back there that nobody knows about. Like, get to the point. And if you're able to do that, you're going to win a lot of friends and you're going to be very successful. Get to the point with good material and be introduced by people that, are respected and that love what you do. That's the simple story there.
So what I'm hearing from all of you is, I mean, it's one thing to know your product, to be an expert in your space. And if I handed anyone here, all these brilliant people who are showing up, and I recognize a lot of these faces, you hand them a mic and they could go on for a long period of time, giving an in-depth, insightful description of what they're working on. But the challenge is really narrowing it down to bullet points and then taking those bullet points and empathizing with the market that may be hurting, or what is the need of the investor. And so what I'm hearing is chunking down the information to very small bites, but empathetically connecting it to who you're talking to. I mean, is that what it needs to be focused on in the first 15 seconds of a pitch? Is number one, identifying the pain that your audience, whether it be your investor, your market, the talent, is it really identifying that pain or the big opportunity and emphasizing that emotion and how there may be an instant fit? I mean, how do you do that? Because I know that the first 15 seconds of a pitch will earn you the next 15 seconds of listening time from your audience. So, James, I want to come to you. How have you seen, because Startup Grind gives a lot of its pitches just 1 minute. I mean, that's crazy. And so you really need to nail it. So in these 1 minute pitches, what have successful companies focused on early? And then Itamar, I'm going to ask you that. And Hans, you guys with the Agentic, you do these big pitch events. I want to hear from you what you've heard from your startups that have been effective. So James, starting with you, 1 minute pitch. How do they do it in the beginning?
Yeah, so the reason why we do a 1 minute pitch, I mean, I guess that's where the phrase elevator pitch came from, right? If you're stuck in an elevator for 1 minute with somebody you want to be, How do you get across your message within 60 seconds? So everybody likes a story to what your background is and how you came up with it, and maybe it was a family incident that drove you to then do research and build this company. That's great, but that's for questions asked to you at the end. You just need to get into the first 15 seconds. Yeah, as Brian said, is the key because people do tend to switch off even within a minute. What I love is the problem statement and solution in the first statement, the first line, and then a pause. So people actually, you're wasting a couple of seconds with the pause, but you're basically stating what you're about to give them, right? And you're going to blow them away with this amazing idea that you have and all your numbers and all your team. But that first problem statement is the key thing to grab people's attention, right? If it's a one-liner, 10 words max of what you're doing within the world that you're changing and why you're the special person to do it, grab someone's attention, right? So that first 15 seconds is key. We don't tend to do more than 1 or 2 minutes ever for a pitch. I've been to a lot of pitch events where they have, 6-minute pitches and 6-minute Q&As. I don't think that should be a pitch competition or a pitch event because that should be, okay, I want to sit down with this founder from the VC's perspective and get to know them over a course of a conversation. But that first 15, 20 seconds of a pitch is how do I stand out from all the competitors in a very, competitive landscape? How many startups are there in the Bay Area here and worldwide? How do you grab an investor's attention against all your other rivals, right? And that's the only way you can do it. Stand out. The opening sentence has to be a home run in terms of knocking them for six, right? So yeah, just I think that's simple for me. I think as soon as you start by introducing who you are and your team and what the background to the story, you've lost already.
James, what I'm hearing you saying is not only keeping it short is important, but contrast is important. I mean, you've got a big problem and a key solution, which creates this gap to be solved. Now, Itamar, I mean, first 15 seconds, how do you cram all this in here to really hook an investor and audience for the next 15 seconds?
I mean, it's really hard, but we're focused on the right thing here. This is the right conversation to have. Your vertical takeoff is the most important thing. Think about it like a funnel, even like a sales funnel. Again, I think about it as a sales effort. You want to be spending the most time at the top of the funnel because that gets you the most attention from the most people. And then you also want to get them down the funnel and you want to spend time at the end to close them, right? It's a sales effort. So we are talking about the right thing and the most important thing. And I'll just say, that vertical takeoff, I think for me have to have two components because there's very broadly two types of arguments that convince people that you're interesting. There's people that are moved by quantitative, data-driven facts, right? It's like, oh, 80% of salespeople can scale whatever. Like they're driven by numbers. You show them the numbers, they nod their heads, and they're like, we love this. Let's keep talking. So there's people driven by that. And we like starting with the problem statement. It's not the only format that works, but it does work because it helps people relate. So like your problem statement can have a data-driven, sort of approach of like, here's the problem, here's the data, right? And then there's another set of people, and again, I'm painting in a very broad brush here. Obviously, there's a lot of different people out there, and everybody thinks a little bit differently. But there are people that are just more moved by sentiment, by emotion, by connecting to the actual problem that the end customer has. Like, oh wow, of course salespeople can do this and this because there's only so many hours in a day, right? I get it, like intuitively as a person. So I think your vertical takeoff has to have a little bit of both. It's got to have a number, like a set of numbers or numbers that get people like saying, oh yeah, factually that there's something here. And then there's got to be an emotional connection where they say, oh, I get it. Yes, they have this problem. You got to have both elements to really get sort of everybody's attention.
So it's that head-heart connection is what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, this makes sense by the numbers, but oh, okay, this problem is emotionally worth solving, and there's this balance.
You can relate with it. It's got to be relatable. It's got to be something you can relate to the problem that the end customer has and say, oh, wow, yeah, I get it. It makes sense.
I love it. Hans, again, you guys are throwing big events. You're looking at a lot of early stage companies. The companies you're working with, they don't have to worry about building. They go straight to go-to-market strategies because you guys take care of all of that pretty much for free, which is amazing. What have you seen in these founders in terms of getting the attention of the market and investors as they look to raise?
So I appreciate that. And Itamar, what you're saying, especially when it comes to translatable skills, when it comes to pitching, as well as selling, very much the same thing to an extent. One of the things that I've used throughout my entire career that I still tell a lot of the startups we work with is within those first 30 seconds, right? Give the audience or give whomever you're positioning against something that they're not going to forget and frame it as such, meaning like, hey, if there's one thing and one thing only in which you that I want you to convey to you at this point in time, it's XYZ, right? So leading with that. Outside of that, I would say the flow, optimistic but not unrealistic projections, why the market is very desperate for this. That's something that Colin just mentioned as well. But also, don't make it too complex. People buy from people, and that's something that you should always lead with.
I love that. So what I'm hearing you say is you don't need to sell the farm in one conversation because the goal is really to have a second conversation. Is that what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Yeah, and within that first 15, 30 seconds, people are going to figure out if they like you or don't, right? And if they're going to forget you, at least give them something to remember, right? For the not letting them sit through the whole presentation, whatever it may be, saying, hey, this is what we provide for companies. And if there's only one thing and one thing at all that you remember while I'm up here, it's this, right? And lead with that.
So I like that. So we got a few minutes. I mean, we can go a little long, but I know we promised 11 to 11:30. Well, two questions. One, what comes next? You've done your homework. You know who you're talking to. You're speaking to the pain point. You're identifying a solution. Now you have their attention. The next question is, what do you deploy next? What would be the best next move in this chess match? Is it a case study example of the problem solution? Is it business model? Is it strategy? Is it more of your research? Is it your team? How would you play this? You've got your audience hooked, and I'll go around the horn. And of course, because we're winding it down, let people know how they can connect with you. Can they connect you through email, LinkedIn? I definitely want all these people, there's a lot of them here, almost 200, to continue the conversation. So, James, I'll start with you. What's the strategy next?
Let me just say one more thing, just on the subject of strategy. So Itamar here is a great example, right? So if you didn't know Itamar beforehand, and I'm a founder, I'd be like, okay, so who is this guy, right? And a quick Google search, quick ChatGPT search straight away whilst we're on the call here, I found out who he is, what he invests in, and even nicely on their website, they've got a list of his portfolio companies. So if I ever wanted to speak to Itamar as a founder, my in should be, oh, hey, Itamar, I see that you have invested in Afternoon, which is a YC company that focuses on fintech. It's a bookkeeping for startups. So we do something similar at XYZ company. Would love to take you for a coffee or have a quick chat. Right, that as an opener, I mean, Itamar can either nod or shake his head, but that as an opener shows that I've done my research and I've proven that I know that he's relevant for my company because it's in the similar sector as what he's already invested in. And therefore, he might have some insights or he might want to pass because it's a conflict. But at least I've done my research on who he is and why I'm reaching out to him and why it's his use of time to speak to me. So I don't know if that's right or not Itamar, but that's how I would approach things. But in terms of, yeah, Brian, what's next is I think the whole thing, I think we're talking here early stage, so pre-seed seed. I think investors don't bet necessarily on ideas, they bet on teams. And teams are mostly the founders at that early stage, right? So a great team is better than a great idea, I think. You're banking on this person or co-founders, whoever it would be, to drive your investment forward to make it some kind of success. So to really portray that you guys are the right people to solve this problem, whatever the problem is the best thing that you can do to convince and get the support of a VC or an angel that's going to give you and write you a check to take you to that next stage, right? So I think the whole thing should be about you and your team and why you are the right people to succeed.
So really quick before I pass the baton, Colin, I'm going to come to you, and then Hans, and then Itamar, I'm going to let you wrap up. On November 20th, we're having a pitch and panel. So I'm going to put a link in the chat right now. Everybody who is here can get a free ticket to that event. It's going to be here at STAK. So sign up, get that free ticket. If you want to connect with me and send me your pitch deck, we're looking for startups to pitch that day. So please send me your pitch deck, and we'll be happy to find those who can, come to our event and pitch. It's going to be a great day. You'll learn more with that link. Get your free ticket. But Colin, what's next in terms of a pitch? You got the attention of the
Yeah.
the audience. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, kind of whether it's selling, pitching, comedy, everything kind of sets up with a three-step process, and you've got your problem, your solution, and then your punchline. And that punchline is going to be different for depending on where you're at in your journey. It might be traction. It might be like, hey, we fix heart disease for 1 million people, and by the way, we're back ordered with 200,000 different units. And that punchline of come talk to me next and why do you want to be interested in this on the next conversation, or why do I need to talk to you, or why do I need follow-up? That punchline is going to be really important because that limited time that you had on the initial pitch, whether it was the elevator pitch, the 1 to 2 minute pitch, or it was like a full 7 minute presentation with your slide deck, you got to leave that one lasting impression of why this is going to change the world, because that's the only time you had. You're not going to explain every single detail or every single IP, every single patent and trademark. You're only going to have the last punchline that's like, that is why they're going to remember you. And for every different startup, it's going to be different, but prepare. What is that item? It's like, hey, you still want to talk to me because of this.
Love it. Love it. Hans, really quick,
No,
how can we connect with
I
you and
love it.
what's your strategy?
We're talking about a lot of business one-on-one stuff, which I think is, fundamentally where our heads should all be at. With that, though, I would say traction, traction, traction for me is always what trumps, right? Show the realness. The proof is in the pudding to an extent. Have that be actual, real, forecastable traction as well, or a way that you can articulate the specific business value and what the investor is actually going to get out of this. If you can convey that quickly, do it. The other thing that I will say lastly is that time kills all deals in a sales capacity as well as a deal capacity as well. So if you have the opportunity to book a next call or a next meeting with your investor or with your prospect, whomever it may be, take the time, do the extra effort to book that time right then and there on that call, whatever it may be, to actually get in front of it, to actually make the relationship. But yeah, I would say more or less traction, traction, traction all day.
Nice. Itamar.
Yeah, again, thinking about this for you guys is a fun. Like, how do you pitch us? How are you successful? The first step is always pre-screening. If I meet you at an event, that's pre-screening, right? We have a 10-minute conversation. You tell me about who you are. Okay, does this resonate? Does it not? If it doesn't, moves to screening. Somebody makes a warm introduction to me. That's pre-screening. I look at the deck. Okay, interesting, not interesting, a good fit for our thesis. Great. Then I move to screening. So your first real conversation with the VC is actually the screening, right? The pre-screening is very short, just to the point. You move to the next step, yes or no. Simple. Once you get the screening, and that's typically a pitch session of like 30 to 45, maybe an hour, where you get one VC, five VCs in the room. It just depends. They're all from one firm, right? That's your pitch session. At the early stage, there is three things that really matter, and everything else is secondary to that. One, team. And I don't want to go into all the deals, but it's everything about the team. Are they the right people? Are they ready to go? Do they have subject matter expertise? Are they have the right DNA, the right set of people in the founding team? All those questions, they all add up to team. Team is the number one driver for early stage deal, guys. That's the most important thing. One. Second most important thing is TAM. Is this VC scale? Because if it's not VC scale, you're talking to the wrong person. I don't do deals that can reach multi-billion-dollar outcomes because that's not how VCs work. And it's not that you don't have a great business. You might have an amazing business. It's just you shouldn't be pitching VCs, not at least in the current constellation. So that's TAM. Don't forget about that. Do that right, because it's the number one reason that VCs turn you down that you don't know about. Your business is just not big enough for them. Number two. Number three, moat, defendability. Ask yourself a simple question. Why am I ahead today? As a CEO, why is my business ahead today? And then why would it be ahead also 5 years from now? Why? Is it business model that's driving it? Is it unique technology and proprietary IP that's driving it? You gotta have something resilient that stands the test of time, new entrants, and incumbent fighting you with billions of dollars in their hands, right? If you can't articulate team, TAM, and moat, I don't think you've good odds of passing on to the next stage from screening to deep diligence. And we don't have time to talk about deep diligence. Obviously, we do a lot of diligence work at VC funds, but that's kind of the next thing that you have to think about as you go down the funnel.
All right, man, that was wonderful. Well, I want to thank all you guys for being here. I mean, thank you, James, Itamar, Colin, Hans. Wonderful insight. I really appreciate you all joining in as well in the audience. We're going to do this every so often, so look for another episode of PitchMaster coming up. We're going to bring in, people who have done this a lot so that you can get insight on how to appear fundable. Once again, we have an event coming up November 20th here at 1900 Broadway, STAK Ventures. We're going to have a pitch and panel. If you want to pitch, if you want to be a panelist, please connect with me. I put my link in the chat and send me your pitch deck. We're going to have a great time. But once again, thank you everybody for being here. See you all soon. See you at the next one. Be safe. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian. You're the best.
Awesome stuff. Thanks.
Hey Brian, great presentation and effort today. For the recording, will that be sent out via email? Do you know when that will be sent out?
I'll have a link and yeah, I'll post it. I'll send it out through Luma.
Oh, okay, through the Luma app. Okay. I
Yeah,
don't know how that works out. So I guess I would just check the event itself for
it'll
today's
come to your
event.
email. I'll do a blast and then
Uh-huh.
I'll send it through the email.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much. Good seeing you, sir.
All right.
Yeah, take care.
Hey, Brian, curious to hear maybe some insights into later stage fundraising. So I think these are some great tips for maybe the first intro call, maybe the second call in terms of talking about defensibility, moat, that sort of stuff. Would love to hear maybe some advice as evaluations progress, maybe things like objection handling and maybe when a deal is stuck, progressing it like later down the line.
Well, that's such a good one. Which one would you like to tackle first? We could actually bring someone in on valuations because I think a lot of people don't really know how to pin that down and provide that. So we could bring someone in. So that's a good insight. But what would be the of those four? I think you gave me three or four. Which one? Like the rejection. Colin says all the time when he and I are working together. He says you got to just keep swinging. Like just go. You got to do the thing that is, for a lack of a better word, disruptive. Make the call, keep pushing. But there you had another one there. I think we go a little bit deeper. Are you still there?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So I was curious, is it like maybe, as a deal progresses, evaluations are getting more serious and this venture firm is actually starting to really consider an investment in you, but maybe they have some objections. Like, do you kind of maybe answer those like outright? Do you maybe try to beat around the bush? Is there just some questions from a first time founder?
Brian, just to chip in on this, right? So beating around the bush is like the last answer, right? So VCs will literally call BS on that straight away. So being honest is definitely the right ploy for that. I think this is an interesting thing, Brian. I don't know, Jonathan, what stage you're talking about in terms of like the fundraising raising. You don't have to say what the amount, but maybe Brian, you could bring in someone. We could bring in someone who's raised that amount or at that stage, and then bring in an investor from that later stage. So Itamar is definitely the pre-seed seed. So maybe we bring someone in from like a Series B fund who can literally tell you how to make that jump, right, and what they look for. Because it becomes more metric driven than team driven and idea driven, right, when it gets to that later stage. So I think bringing someone in, Brian, I've got a couple of people that come to mind that can help with that. So maybe that's the next session or one of the next sessions in the next couple of, in this series.
Yeah, I like because I think one of the biggest red flags in early stage is these hockey sticks, right? But if you have inflection points and you're hitting those goals and you have, like you're saying, James, the metrics to prove a progression and funding moving forward, I think those are good to flesh out because you no longer have to talk about the problem you're solving. You have to show the traction you're getting and the purpose for scaling, I think, at that point. So it does become very different. And yeah, I think we could bring in somebody to talk about a little bit more in depth of what Jonathan is referring to.
I appreciate that, guys. Just to clarify, when I was talking about later stage, I didn't mean like a Series B or Series C company. I was thinking more of like maybe a pre-seed company, but instead of an intro call with an investor, maybe it's their fourth or fifth call with that investor.
So yeah, so on that point, okay, so that is very different to what we were saying. So I thought you meant later stages in you've raised quite a lot and you wanted to really scale. So I think the thing to think about here is right when you're talking about valuations and it's tricky at that early stage, right? Is you don't want to oversell what you're doing because if you haven't got the traction or you don't have the customer base, then invariably if you go into a negotiation, you're going to come out worse, right? So I think you have to be, and I don't know where you're up to, but I think you have to be ready for taking investor calls, right? So don't just take it for the sake of it because it's what Silicon Valley culture is, and you have to go and raise venture. You have to be ready for that, and I mean, you have to have a product that people want and that people are paying for already, in order to go into these negotiations and these conversations. Because either one, they'll just turn you down, and you will get that rejection. Otherwise, they'll skew the valuation and in their terms because it is a big risk at that early stage. So yeah, that would be my number one thing about that. And in terms of like just general rejection, like trying to book in as many calls and as many investor meetings in like a 1 2 week window as you can means that it'll be hard, right? But it means that you'll learn a lot from all the meetings and it's fresh and you can take that into your next call. I know tons of founders that have got great meetings with great investors that haven't gone on from anything, but I turn to them and say, hey, like you've got feedback from like a really good VC there. That's a rejection in one sense, but they've also given you reasons as to why they want to see what they want to see from you in 6 months' time. So like that's that, or arguably is better feedback and than you can get elsewhere, right? It's like, in sporting when you lose, people say, "Oh yeah, we learned more from this loss than we did if we just scraped through a win," right? And it's that kind of cliche of I've got all these rejections, but what can I learn from each meeting? And each investor will give me a different pointer. So I think that's sorry to just go off tangent there a little bit, Brian, but yeah, I think it's a learning curve at that early stage, right?
Love it. Good stuff. All right, I got to get ready to jump. I have some meetings to prepare for. James, thank you again, everybody here. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. We'll keep you posted on the next one.
Thank you guys. You guys are fantastic. Cheers.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Be safe. See you soon.